Hey listeners, you're listening to the Midnight Readers podcast. Grab some tea, a midnight snack, and cuddle up in bed as we dive deep into today's most popular fantasies, sci-fi, and mysteries. We're your hosts. I'm Lily.
I'm Brittany.
And I'm Christy.
This season we'll be discussing the heart-pounding military fantasy that's part Hunger Games and part How to Train Your Dragon. That's right, grab your flight jacket, we're headed to Basgiath.
A dragon without its rider is a tragedy. A reader without their book or this podcast is dead. Welcome to the revolution. My best advice, don't die, and don't worry. We most likely won't need our allies.
In this episode, we'll be discussing Book 1 of the Empyrean series, Fourth Wing, chapters 1 through 7, where Violet crosses the parapet, makes a few friends, a few enemies, as she's saddled under the command of Xaden Ryerson.
Before we get into it, this is your warning for major spoilers ahead. This includes potentially all Empyrean series materials, including bonus chapters and interviews with the author. We are also avid fans of the Moss universe and might accidentally let spoilers slip for other popular romantasy book series as well. Sorry in advance, like the books, this podcast is rated R, so be warned.
Also, a friendly reminder to like, subscribe, and follow. You can find us on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and YouTube.
So both Fourth Wing and Iron Flame open with, "The following text has been faithfully transcribed from Navarian into the modern language by Jacinia Neilwart, curator of the Scribe Quadrant at Basgiath War College. All events are true, and names have been preserved to honor the courage of those fallen. May their souls be commended to Malik." I personally feel like this statement could be very telling in many ways, even a little spoilery. But it does bring up some questions, at least for me. What do y'all think?
Absolutely. I was thinking about it last night as I was finishing up the reading.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Jacinia survives.
Yeah. Clearly, Jacinia survives, Basgiath survives.
Right.
Markham either loses his job or is dead. Hopefully the latter.
Yep. Yeah, fuck Markham, because Jacinia would be a way better curator.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But knowing that she also sided with the rebels in Iron Flame, you think maybe that means they won?
I mean, I can only hope.
Also, the one other question that it brings up is she's transcribing it from Navarian into the modern language. So does that mean Cormeal maybe is part of their country now? Since Navarian, shouldn't that be the modern language as a
Also, the fact that she says that the names have been preserved to honor the courage of those fallen. So who's fallen?
Yes. And a lot of people look at this and they go, oh my god, this means Xaden and Violet are going to die. And I get that paranoia. I do. But this,
I don't think so.
At some point, they are going to die in history. The way that I read this text is that it's what they put at the beginning of a history book.
Yeah.
That you could check out of the archives. And who knows, maybe these events took place hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We don't know as readers, so.
Plus, I mean, Liam died. I can't know, how do you pronounce her name?
Who?
Gauntlet.
Arieli?
Orally. Yeah. That's how the narrators pronounce it. But it does. Ever since I saw it written down, I cannot think of her name as Orally. It's always like Oriella or something like that.
Well, there's the Mercy Thompson character that's not far off, which is Arieli, right?
Yeah. So we do have lots of people dying in this book, so it could be referring to them. You never know.
We'll see.
All right. So I want to talk about Violet as a character. Violet is a character with chronic illness, and I cannot describe just how important she is to me. As a disabled person, as a person with chronic illness, and when I was first diagnosed, I would search out book characters that had my illness just to relate with somebody. I'd search out people with my illness.
Yeah.
And I read several. I can't claim to say that I've read them all, but I've read several. I've watched TV shows with diabetic characters in them, and they always get it wrong. It is always used as some plot device that, oh, this diabetic character's been kidnapped and we must find them before they need their medication or they'll die. That's not how it works. And it's so disheartening to read it and see it misrepresented.
Yes, misrepresented.
And even though I do not have the same illness as Violet, I connected with her character on an experience level more than any other character that I've ever read.
Yeah.
Just when she said, I love the days when my body works.
Violet is very special in that way. I feel like there are a lot of books nowadays, especially, that are attempting to give some representation to people that are usually not the main characters of books. And I think that Violet is one of those great exceptions in that I think Rebecca Yarros does it really right. I also have, quite a lot of issues with my body. I guess you would call it chronic illness.
Yes.
And I, like Violet, have a lot of joint problems. And so whenever there was one point, especially in this first half of the book, where she's talking about not being able to grip something or pull herself up on something. It just feels so like being seen. Mm-hmm. I think Rebecca Yarros also has
EDS,
Violet's illness, which is supposed to be representative of EDS, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a little different from you and I, but it's still
the experience.
It's like learning how to live your life differently.
Relatable.
Yeah.
Well, I think what she does so beautifully too is she turns them into strength. So it makes her an actual stronger character than others because she has spent her whole life dealing with the pain. And these other characters haven't. So her tolerance for that is going to be so much higher, which makes her stronger. And I love that.
It's partly she doesn't use the illness as some plot device. It is depth of character for Violet. And while, yes, it does impact the plot in little ways, it's not something like, oh, well, Violet has to find a way to do this because she's got EDS and, time's running out.
But no one treats her differently besides the people who we don't like in the book, right?
Yeah.
Her mother on occasion, Dane. The people
Jack.
that treat her differently, they miss the point. They miss that Violet can do everything just like they can. It just might have to be in a different way.
Yeah.
And I also have to say that I do also relate to Violet in the sense that she's a short, petite, frail-looking girl or woman. And I'm so sick and tired of people, like I would pick up a box and people would be like, oh, do you need help? Can you actually pick that up? You're going to hurt yourself. And it got
you being the fiercely independent person that I know.
Yeah. And it got to the point where I would literally pick up boxes just to show people that I could pick up boxes. I may be tiny framed, and that is because of my disease, not because I try to.
I am small, but I'm not tiny framed, so I can't relate.
It doesn't make me weak just because I look frail.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it shouldn't. People shouldn't assume things about anyone.
They shouldn't.
Yeah.
No.
And I think that leads us into the first part of the book, the opening chapter where we meet our main character and we meet Lilith Sorrengail and we meet Mira, and all they're talking about is her illness.
Yep. We do get our first description of her, and it says she's got pale hair, pale eyes, pale skin, and I quote, "It's like that fever stole all of your coloring along with your strength."
Yep.
Now, Rebecca Yarros did do an interview in New York where she said there is a reason behind the coloring.
Of course there is.
Hair.
Of course.
We don't know it yet.
Yeah.
But the leading theory is that Lilith might have been attacked by a venin when she was pregnant with Violet, or that she had actually turned herself. What do y'all think?
Isn't that one of
This is
the things that she talks about? That was one of her fears when she was a child?
Yeah.
So when she's in line at presentation, she jokes with Rhiannon about Venin and how she was like, haha, I once thought my mom was Venin because she came home with bloodshot eyes. It was when we were stationed on the eastern border near the Barrens.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting that she makes that point, because one of the other things that is pointed out in that first few chapters is that it's clearly not the first time that Lilith Sorrengail has thought about what it could have done to Violet, and looks at Violet's appearance and thinks, she almost died. She is ill. I hurt my daughter in some way. She doesn't say those things, but it seems to come out that way. And she says, it's not the first time I've heard her curse the sickness that nearly killed her while she was pregnant with me. And not nearly killed Violet, nearly killed Lilith Sorrengail. So it makes you question what was going on with Lilith Sorrengail that we don't know about, even in Iron Flame at this point.
Yeah. Did she become Venin? I know there was a lot of theories about maybe her dad becoming Venin and still being alive out there, though I think Rebecca has said no, he's dead.
So would that make her still Venin at this point?
It seemed, well, you know what's interesting about that is, if Lilith Sorrengail ran into something that made her potentially Venin, or be attacked by a Venin, or something that made her eyes red like that, it makes me think the dad was studying it. Maybe he started studying it because of what happened to her, and because of what happened when she was pregnant with Violet. So, I mean, when she talks about labor, the fables that he tells Violet later when they're sharing stuff about the Venin and the Wyvern, no one else knows about that. But Violet does, because he was looking into it.
And if my wife had turned Venin, and say like Xaden, she only did it once so far, I would still prepare my children. These are the signs you need to be looking for.
Yep.
So yeah, and I honestly think she might have been, although I think she is one of those people that maybe she just channeled the one time and then managed to stave off the rest.
Yeah.
Because we do get a memo in Iron Flame later that kind of sort of hints at something like that.
Interesting. And we'll have to discuss that when we get to Iron Flame.
Yeah. So Violet also invokes the gods a lot throughout this series. And she does it here as well.
So where does she start invoking them? Where is it? At the beginning when she's going on to Parapet?
When she first sees Rhiannon too.
Yeah.
You noted that.
Yeah. So this is my third or fourth read of Fourth Wing. I can't remember. It might be fourth. But the second read, I noticed all the stuff with Dane. The third read, I noticed the shadows more. And this time around, whether it was the fourth or whatever, I noticed all of the time she's mentioning the gods. And what is so weird to me is that we don't know anything about the gods, but she continues to bring it up. And so even at the beginning of this book, she compares Rhiannon's appearance to looking like Amara, which I think there's no way that can be a coincidence. I think at this point, with the amount that she invokes them throughout the book, which later she invokes the god Zenal, which is the god of luck, the goddess of war and strength, Dune, and later, after she's gone through threshing, Tarn laughs at the idea of invoking smaller gods. So again, there's a point made to bring up that they exist, but we don't have anything that comes out of it. But if you guys...
Not yet, at least. I do hope she brings them up later.
And then the last thing that I noticed was that, when you read through this book, the chapter beginnings, the quotes at the chapters are very indicative of what's going to happen in the chapter, oftentimes. Yeah. Chapter 11's beginning quote is Major Rorley's Guide to Appeasing the Gods. And the quote is, "It is a grave offense against Malak to keep the belongings of a dead loved one. They belong in the beyond with the god of death and the departed. In the absence of a proper temple, any fire will do. He who does not burn for Malak will be burned by Malak."
There's a major theory in the Fourth Wing reading community that a lot of people think that Xaden and Violet are actually going to turn out to be gods themselves, and they don't know who they are.
See, I feel like that she's half-hearted about it. That she seems almost like a joke with the gods a little bit, kind of like a just in case. I'm going to throw this out there to the gods. But with Malak, death, they're supposed to burn everything or else be burned by him. But she has Brennan's journal, and Mira had it before, and neither were burned. So I would have to think with her intellectual mind that she'd have to see
Brennan,
that glaring issue where what's been taught isn't adding up with what actually happens. Like, and she also doesn't get offended when Taryn is kind of like, a little bit making fun of their gods.
Yeah.
My thing about the journal is, okay, so yeah, Brennan wrote it and then gave it to Mira. So technically it's Mira's. Isn't that the way a gift works?
I don't know
Mira
about that.
Gave it to Violet. So now it's Violet's journal. It's if I bought you a book just because it was mine at one point.
But I don't think it
I'm
works that
buying it
way,
for
because I
you.
think for Malak, the way they describe him, like anything you've touched that yours, and that is his writing. So even if he gave it as a gift, it's still his writing in there, and that would still be
It's
considered.
the book of Brennan.
Yeah.
It's like,
But then all those history books.
Well, but even they say it though. But even they say it that the mother would have it burned if she found it. So blatantly, that goes within their guidelines.
That's my thing, is that I don't understand why she would burn it, because technically it doesn't belong to Brennan. He might have written it, but he gave it to somebody else, and then it becomes their property. Just like if, Violet had written the book and gave it to Brennan. I don't know. I can't think. Like, when I make a craft and I sell it or give it as a gift, it doesn't make it mine anymore. That's just me saying I think this is a logical error, not that this is the way that the world works.
yeah.
Maybe she understands how humans work, because then they would be like, "Oh, well, so and so gave it to me. I'm gonna keep all their stuff. That's my stuff now."
And to be fair, Brennan is technically still alive, so
Yeah.
even if it is his book,
It didn't matter anyway.
Yeah. Well, and it's not, mine is more just about her thought process with it. That I think with her kind of mind and how she works, I don't really know if she believes in the gods, because every time she invokes, it's kind of like just in case, in case he exists.
like,
Yes,
Catholic
but
prayer?
do we see other characters doing that? And also, at this point, Rebecca Yarros has made so many intentional choices. It's hard for me to think it's not intentional,
What do you think is going to come from the gods?
I'm not sure, but I think she might, if she's not connected to them in some way, the way that Brittany thinks that people are saying, like she's a god or she's from a god or something like that, I think they're going to help her in some way.
So do you think, like Percy Jackson?
children of
Yeah,
God.
they're like the kids of the gods, but they had it with mortals.
That would be so
are you
cool.
thinking like the silver hair is kind of like a god had sex with the mom, and then
I thought of that too.
Well, that would mean that Papa Sorrengail isn't her dad, though.
Or Papa Sorrengail is a god.
Or Papa Sorrengail is a god.
Ooh.
Done.
Done.
And
Unlocked.
we'll talk about this more when we get to Iron Flame, but I fully believe that the gods are on Violet's side, and that when she was being tortured, he sent Liam. So
Yeah.
that's just maybe Malik sent me as a kindness because he likes you. Not in like a romantic way, but he
favors you.
yes, favors you.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what comes of it. I kind of hope there's a little bit of it, but not so much that it interferes too much, just so much that it's like there's a point to be made, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
No Gabby mode.
well, would that? Because I mean, what we love about her is that there's something that we can relate to with her. But if we find
Right.
out she's a god, would that not maybe erase some of that?
I don't want her to be a god, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
like that theory, honestly.
Me
Me
either.
either.
But I do think that the gods favor her, and they do help her out occasionally. Maybe in small ways, like sending Liam.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
Violet and Xaden have their first encounter. And I know I've said this to y'all several times. I want Fourth Wing and Iron Flame in Xaden's point of view. All of it. written by Rebecca Yarros.
All of it.
I know that that's not going to happen. I know it. But I do have a list of scenes that I really, really want. And this is one of them.
The first time he sees her.
Yes.
Very specifically in Iron Flame, when they're yelling at each other, he says, "Ask me about the first time I saw you." Very specifically says that. And now I want to know why.
I want to know as well. I remember this.
Why, Xaden? But the reason I brought the scene up mostly is because there is a part in this where I saw a TikTok user, Bookish Girl Things. She posted that Violet thinks that he clenches his hand because he wants to kill her. And she thinks that it's because he's reading all her, ooh,
Yeah.
the sexiest man alive thoughts.
It's like it's a Darcy moment. It's a Pride and Prejudice Mr. Darcy moment where he's clenching his hand. Oh, so good.
So I have a different theory because he clenches his hand right after she says in her head, Mira isn't going to lose both her siblings. And so I think he heard that and he was like,
He's like, damn it, I can't kill her. Yeah, that's probably realistic, actually. Because I feel
'Cause
like he really didn't like her at first.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm not a big fan of insta love,
Yeah, me either. I need a burn.
but also, like Violet says later, she was like, I wanted to believe that you didn't kill me because you were at least intrigued by me. And I hope that's the case. He sits there and he glances at the boot that she shared with Rhiannon, this perfect stranger that she met on the stairs. And I want that POV.
Yeah.
I need to know.
I think I'm okay with instant attraction, but instant love is not satisfying in any way, you know?
No. Yeah. Okay. So I know we talked about this before, but as a current gymnast, not current, as a past gymnast.
Really?
I have a hard time picturing the parapet as something that people have to balance on because a balance beam is like 4 inches wide. I measured my foot last night. It's 3 inches wide. at the widest. So literally the parapet, I know it's 200 feet in the air. A balance beam is only like 4 or 5 feet in the air. But at the
wind.
Parapet with wind. Yeah, the parapet is this wide.
That's not
it's 18
that
inches
wide.
wide.
That's so small,
It
Brittany.
totally is. No,
If it was the size of a balance
Brittany.
beam, there would be no riders.
I could
My
I could totally
hips are
fit-
probably that wide. I'm fucking
fit.
serious.
Okay, yeah, my hips are that wide. But
That's crazy.
all you gotta do is have one foot in front
All
of the
you
other.
have to do,
Uh-uh.
have you seen any of us walking?
Okay, so these are 20-year-olds.
Doesn't walk in a straight line.
Yeah, no, I don't.
We're lucky
I don't
if we
walk in a
stay
straight
up
line.
on 2
I walk
feet.
into
All you have to
walls.
do is one foot in front of the other.
But these are 20-year-olds, okay? 20-year-olds.
I don't give a fuck. One improper hip bump and I'd be flying off that fucking parapet.
And Jack Barlow behind you?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it's raining?
Yeah, there would be no riders if it was the size of a balance beam.
Are you kidding me?
Well, okay, so I just have the
Big
hardest time
talk.
picturing Oh, I know. I would walk right off of it.
Wow.
I lose my balance standing still. I'm not the one that counts here. But 20-year-olds, I think that most of them should have decent balance to be able to walk an 18-inch
It's
parapet.
a good thing you're not in charge of this then.
Not for real. What would
God.
Brittany do to make this harder?
Right?
My lord.
Evil.
I hope people comment on this. I hope people comment on this and they're like, what the fuck's wrong with Brittany?
Every picture that I've seen that people draw, the parapet is literally just a little bit wider than her foot. And I'm like, no. So I'm not the only one who is having a hard time picturing an 18-inch parapet being something that is hard to... That evokes danger.
Well,
I guess.
I don't think it's insane that people don't know how to envision a giant cliffside that people are falling to their death from.
Oh, they draw it perfectly fine. It's just like this big instead of that big.
I think this is a trivial issue.
It is. It's just it's one of those things that I can't let go.
Well, for the parapet, how's the audiobook with the action? Because I know for reading the book, it is so good. It is heart pounding. It's emotional. I mean, it's so good. Does the audiobook read it that way?
It does. And I did listen to the graphic audio, and they add in the rain and thunder and whatever.
I don't like that.
Mm-mm.
It was a little too much for my sensory issues, but I listened to the audiobook and it's pretty heart pounding.
So good.
Yeah, I've done both.
After you, Sorrengail.
Yeah, I've done both. I think the narrator for the audiobook is fantastic, and she does a really great job of evoking real people. But then there's something about reading the physical book that makes you feel so engrossed in it. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of rain, it pours during her test. It literally starts right as she's about to get on the parapet, and it ends right after she's done.
Yep.
As Violet points out, it's like it just came to make the hardest test of her life even harder.
Didn't it come for Dylan first? Like it came during his and knocked him off.
Well, sure.
While he was up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, it was almost like right as she was getting up there. It was almost her turn.
Yeah. Now, I'm glad that you brought this up, Brittany, because one of the things that I noticed as I was rereading it this time is that at the beginning of the book, it says that when she's talking to her mother about becoming a writer, Violet says, "I cringe as the temperature in the room plummets, courtesy of Mom's storm-wielding signet power." I never caught this before upon first read. Like, I must have just looked over it, but it made me think, what events are happening as a result of Mom's feelings? And does this mean that Violet's signet power may also come with emotional byproducts? Like, all the times that it rains when Violet is in the middle of a stressful situation after she's channeling, is that because she's kind of accidentally making it rain? Because we know that she can cause lightning when she's, having a good time. What happens when she's not having a good time? So it made me wonder.
That does kind of give a little bit more evidence to the theory that she might be a storm wielder.
Yeah.
A lot of people actually think that Lilith caused this storm.
For the parapet?
Either that she... yeah, it would. Either that she was trying to test her daughter even more than her other children. She pushes Violet very hard. Or that she was so emotional about the fact that she might lose her daughter that day that she accidentally caused it.
That makes more sense.
I would think that.
Yeah. Because later on in Iron Flame, what we find out about her mom, I think that would make more sense if that's the case.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I just
Lily,
thought it was weird.
You do make a good point that it does seem to rain a lot around Violet.
Yeah. I noticed it because once I recognized that it was raining and that her mother had an effect on the temperature, I was like, think of all the times that it rains in these books. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
All right, Christy, you wanted to talk about Jack Barlow?
Well, I think my introduction was more of just, can we talk about what a piece of shit he is?
Yeah. We can absolutely talk about what a piece of shit he is.
Yeah.
Absolute psycho.
I do not fucking get this. Like, why would you want someone that is that nuts in such a vital position? I mean, my God, he's gonna fucking kill his whole squad and they'll have nobody to fight. It seems completely ludicrous that they would not just go ahead and kill him off. And the fact that the dragons didn't kill him.
Yeah. I mean, what is so interesting about this is, like, you would think more people would have it out for him, but they don't.
Yeah.
They don't.
I understand that they are going to have to kill each other to some extent. If somebody comes after me, I will kill you if you try to kill me, kind of thing. But he actively seeks out trying to kill people. On assessment day, he snapped some kid's neck, and the professor was like, I told you not to do that.
Yeah, the professors are shit there.
They just allow the kind of, and this is, I think on your first read, this is one of the craziest things about the book is people are dying left and right, just casually. And you're like, what do you mean? They're just allowing this guy to snap necks and throw people off of the ledge and just get away with it. How are they allowing that? But
yeah,
I don't know.
You'd want some kind of limit to who
Checks and
how he can kill.
Yeah.
Although, did he maybe drive Xaden and Violet together? That maybe there was such an insane hatred in him that, because Xaden hates her at first and wants to kill her, but then maybe with Jack being so nuts and Violet being Violet, that it makes him want to protect her.
It's a good plot device.
I don't know if Xaden hates her.
When it starts out?
He wants revenge on her mother, and he's willing to take that anger out on Violet, but I don't think he just hates this random girl just because she's Lilith's daughter. I think he hates Lilith, and he's willing to make Violet pay for that.
Yeah.
It's the morally gray.
But do you think Jack interrupts those plans a little bit with how crazy he is?
With what we know about what happened between Lilith and Xaden, I don't know about that.
Okay.
Honestly,
I don't know. I think the thing about Jack's character that's also really crazy is you think he's just gonna be this character for the whole series, and then once we see what becomes of Jack, he isn't just a plot device anymore. You know what I mean? He's part of the plot.
When I first read this series, I figured he would be her main personal antagonist.
Yeah.
Kind of the way Christy from the Mercy Thompson series is to Mercy.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect him to become what he is today.
I don't think anybody saw that one coming. Yeah. And I will say, whenever Violet's going up against him, it makes me love Violet more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the difference between Xaden's just throw some knives at him and Dane's lay low.
Avoid him at all costs.
Tamlin and Reese.
Don't want to anchor him any further.
Yeah. Jack thinks she's weak. Laying low and hiding from him is just going to help that theory along.
Did you feel a little bit of
and if you notice,
Tamlin and Reese with the two of them?
It feels like that when you're first reading it if you're a Moss fan, although I hesitate to compare them because I think Yaros doesn't like it.
Now, they are completely different characters, but just that vibe.
Yeah, that dynamic.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
I will say, I thought I about died laughing when you said that Johan was like, okay, he could be a love interest.
Yeah. Jack? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what?
Yeah.
Because he was so ready to be like, okay, everybody's a potential love interest.
So, Christy, I don't know, you must not remember this, but when we got Johan to read Fourth Wing, which, by the way, Johan is my husband to the readers, he loves Fourth Wing. I got him to read it and he's obsessed. But as he was reading it, he was preparing for all these enemies to lovers tropes. And he was like, Jack, that guy's a psycho. He's probably a love interest.
Oh my God. Well, especially since he's the one that caught all three of us, I think, read ACOTAR and liked Tamlin until it gets pointed out just how horrible he is. But didn't he actually catch that? Like, he hated Tamlin from the get-go.
Johan hated Tamlin from the beginning of the book. Johan was like, I don't like him. I don't know about this one. and yeah, Johan clocked him early. And I was like kind of blown because I was like, man,
damn,
you're better than I am. I was fooled. And I always felt like that was an experience you have to go through if you read ACOTAR. Well, then you get to this book and Johan's like, Jack's probably a love interest. I'm like, you are in for a ride.
I will say about Jack's character, he is a psychopath and a bully, but I think deep down, he's also very much a coward.
Oh,
all bullies are cowards.
Oh, yeah. Well, the only time that he ever stands up to Violet is when he has the upper hand. And then as soon as she fights back or gains the upper hand or whatever, he runs away.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Well, just like...
Or he's got his buddies to help
Well,
him.
with Andarno when he fucking runs. But then later on, he's like, oh, are you going to get a professor to stand in your way? And she was like, I wasn't the one fucking running out of that clearing.
Yeah.
Classic bully.
Yeah, nice
3 against 1. Yeah.
What kills me is, why is Jack the way he is? Where did he come from? We start the book series with him being just ready to kill Violet. What the fuck kind of character is just so ready for that? We don't have any lore. We don't have any backstory. This man is just chaos incarnate in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
He was probably born that way.
Yeah.
But supposedly we are supposed to get some backstory for Jack eventually.
Really?
Interesting.
Yeah, to the point where somebody was like, I can't remember exactly what they said, but it was like Rebecca Yarrow said that we were going to get even something that might make us feel for Jack.
No.
And I was like, there's no way. There's no
After
way.
he threw that kid off the fucking parapet, I don't give a flying fuck what he went through.
What if Johan was right? And we get this weird left-wing romance with Jack in the 3rd book. What if he was right? What if he clocked it?
No.
I don't even know what I would say.
Rebecca Yarros also said that Xaden is endgame, so no.
I know, but I mean, that doesn't mean she's not going to throw us a curveball.
No.
All I'm saying
No.
Not with Jack.
Nope.
Not with Jack.
You guys are like, I reject
I will
that.
absolutely. Just like with Justin Masters being the good guy, no. It is a no. I actually put this rant. I have it on mine. I don't think I have it on the other ones, but I did this rant, and I actually did this when Jack was saying he wants the black one with the dragons, and they're looking at Taryn.
Yeah.
And I put, fuck you, Jack, to I want the black one. I would love to see Taryn sit on you with you disappearing up his asshole, where he'll fart just enough to keep you alive for a few hours, and then you'll suffocate in his anus, and he poops you out from high up, and he goes flat on some barren land where you'll never be found.
Oh my god, what the fuck?
Don't take this the wrong way, but what is it with you and butts?
No, for real. You and buttholes. I'm a little concerned, Christy.
Well, because that was a
no wonder you like Caleb. Oh my gosh. I'm dead.
Oh my god, though. That's great. I don't know. Would it
never
be
know
worse
what to expect
be
from her.
digested alive or farted on by
No.
wait. By fart.
If you're farted on by Taryn, is it Is it going to be hot?
Yes.
Like fire breath?
So no. What would happen is Taryn would sit on him and he would go up his anus and be stuck there. And as Taryn is farting, that keeps him a little bit alive, but he's having to stay alive off of Taryn's farts. But see, eventually he's going to suffocate and he's going to die in that juicy little spot. And then he's going to poop him out.
I'm going to cry. I think we'll never be monetized. We will never be monetized on this podcast. I'm gonna cry. Oh my god. Because what the fuck was that?
It was great. That's what it was.
I don't even know. Her mind is such a crazy place. Oh, Christy.
We did get a message on Instagram today. I think
really
it was
funny.
Instagram that said, "Love your content. Keep doing what you're doing."
You got a message like that?
Yeah.
Love your content?
Keep doing what you're doing.
After the fart thing. His farts are just enough to keep him alive. I can't. Oh my god. Okay, back to Violet and Zayden. What? I'm so glad we read Zodiac Academy first because I feel like those books have the energy that is like that. You know what I mean? Brings out the craziest shit. Oh, that was really funny, Christy.
It was great.
Okay, anyway.
So, another way that I personally relate to Violet is when she's up there on the parapet and they keep going, "Are you General Sorrengail Star?" And she just feels so exasperated by constantly being defined by her relationship to others.
Yeah.
And
Mira's sister. Brennan's sister.
Zayden's weakness.
The Sorrengail girl. Yeah, Zayden's weakness.
But I personally went through that in high school where my parents both worked at the school. My brother attended. And it was just, I get her frustration of just recognize me for me. Like, I don't have to be known by my relationship to somebody else.
Yeah.
So it was constantly, for me, I wanted to be recognized for my talents and for my grades and for my achievements rather than my relationship to my family.
Yeah.
Did you feel that way growing up, Christy? Did you ever feel like that? No one ever knew my family.
No, me neither.
No one knows us. I was the first of my family to really be a part of anything. I have the opposite, feeling like I always wanted to have a family where that happened because people around me in high school, they would be like, "Oh, you're so-and-so's sister. I loved your sister in my class. I can't wait to have you in my class, blah, 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 blah." I used to be like, man, that never happens to me because I didn't have any siblings who were near my age at the time.
I always wanted a sister. I always wanted a twin
Me
sister.
too.
I have cousins that are twins, and it looked like so much fun.
Well, for me, I mean, part of it is growing up in a very small town where the mayor was a family friend kind of thing. But it wasn't so much fun. But moving on,
Small town
let's
things.
talk about Dane Atos.
Shall we?
Another way that I feel connected to Violet is the way that Dane treats her. All he sees is her disease. All he can see is the least of what she's capable of.
Yeah.
When I was diagnosed, my friends started looking at me differently, and we would go by a thing on campus and they'd be like giving out free candy or free something, free juice.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend would literally be like, "She can't have it. She's sick."
That's so lame.
Yeah, they started treating me differently. I had a boyfriend tell me that, I had a potential boyfriend who told me that he couldn't date me until I was well.
He does know how that works, right?
Yeah, like, does he know it's a forever thing?
Crack a book once in a while, you know?
And I would get shamed for drinking a Coke and all these things by my friends because that's not what you're supposed to do.
I didn't know you were friends with that many doctors.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And
other than the nursing students loved me because I was like, sure, you can give me a shot. You can practice on me. It's fine. But Dane gives me this energy. And I also had to cut those people out of my life.
You know, maybe it's probably kind of a controversial take or not one that I'm happy to admit, but upon reading the book first, I knew that he was supposed to be kind of a Tamlin character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the character that's holding her back. I knew that immediately, but I also understood Violence. I also understood Violet's need to give him the benefit of the doubt because I don't know, I'm that kind of person. I'm the kind of person that if you're someone that's important to me, I will give you so many opportunities to fix things. You know what I mean? To a fault. And I can recognize that. And watching her do that with Dane is difficult for me because I feel her. And I also see how stupid it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't want to lose a relationship that you've had since childhood.
I think that's natural, though. I mean, the thing is, he was a good person, and she'd already invested so much at that point. And I think so many people like him, they do that. They act the right way until you invest so much in them and you fall for them, whether it's friendship or otherwise. And then it is hard to kind of turn around after all of that and leave, although Violet is fantastic at it when she's had enough.
Which is good for her. I think that she should be like a model for that because he just consistently tears her down.
Yeah. You're about to be some of the bullshit that I cut away from me.
Yeah. Well, he keeps giving her what is that called? Moving the goalposts or whatever. And he does that. So, you can't do this. She does it. Well, now you can't do this. And at what fucking point are you going to say you're amazing? You've gone so far past what I thought you could do. I was wrong. I mean, there's no end to it.
I think another thing that should be brought up here about Dane that is really relatable is that Dane treats her like a lot of men treat women. And I think that it's a lot of, we expect you to not be able to do it, but once you have done it, we're not going to give you that recognition, and we're going to find a reason to believe that you had accommodations. You cheated, or you're still not able to do this, or I don't believe in you still. That's such a woman's experience. It's infuriating.
Yeah, I think that's part of his whole thing is he needs her to need him. It's his personality.
100%.
I did note that Dane is very selfish, the way that Darius Acrux is selfish.
Ooh.
He literally says, you can't be here because I can't watch you die. What's it going to do to me if you die and I have to watch?
Right.
It's very, very much about him.
Yes.
It's hard, though.
And he tries to manipulate her that way.
Yeah.
He tries to manipulate her, though. He's like, do this for me. It would hurt me to see you get hurt. And it's like, it's not about you.
Damn, I was about to try to argue with you because I was like, damn, are we really going to put Dane and Darius at the same level? But I don't think I can argue.
I totally agree. I mean, this is one of the reasons Darius is one of my least favorite Zodiac Academy characters. Very selfish.
His plans too, I just don't understand them. They are unreasonable. He knows very much that once she put her name on that roll, there is no getting out of it.
Yeah.
And he knows what happens to deserters, and yet he's like, let me sneak you into the scribe quadrant.
Well, what gets me is he does it without her fucking permission. He goes behind her back without asking her about any of it, speaks to Markham. It's Markham, right? That's in charge of the scribe quadrant. Yeah, he speaks to Markham and he's like, hey, will you take Violet if she agrees to come back into the scribe quadrant? And then comes to Violet and is like, Markham agreed to take you. You should go back. And it's like, what the fuck? Why would you do that? You had no right. You had no right.
Yeah. And, okay, so in Iron Flame, when Auric shows up, Dane literally says, you sure about this? You cross that parapet and there's no going back. So if there's no going back for Auric, why does he think that there's going back for Violet?
Yeah.
I'm thinking that Auric is a little bit more important to the higher-ups than Violet is. And not only that, but in his plan with Markham says he'll take him. And Violet points out, okay, so yeah, Markham keeps quiet, but what about the other instructors? And does he really honestly think that De Vera's not going to notice that Violet's not in class anymore?
Yeah, and he's such a rule follower. Why wouldn't he stick to the fucking rules? It kills me.
He only said, because he was certainly willing to break the rules when it came to Amber Mavis. So he didn't believe Violet.
Yeah, no, Amber would never break the rules, so of course you're wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's if she truly believed that she didn't break them, or if, I don't know. It feels like he just wanted her to not make waves, and I don't know. I get a weird feeling about that whole thing.
He's so terrified of losing her that he's smothering her,
driving her away.
But I just get it feels like he's so worried about what everybody else is going to think. I don't know.
I think he's more worried about what Daddy thinks.
Yeah.
He is a rule follower, and he does admit later he would have let Violet die.
Which is insane.
That's why I say I don't think that he could have really cared so much about her living or dying, because if he was gonna let her die instead of stepping in to help her if he could, obviously he doesn't care that much.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Xaden was like, there isn't a rule in this world that would stop me from saving Bodhi, Garrett, Liam.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he truly cares about them.
Honestly, I think he would break a rule to save somebody he didn't like too.
Yeah. He probably would.
Yeah. I think he might not be happy with it, but I think he would.
Maybe.
And I think that's why we really like him, because he would do something like that.
Well, I think he has strength of character. Dane doesn't.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So do you feel like that they feel like the scribes are important, that they are, I mean, you've got your higher ups, the writers, the ones that are considered really important in society. Do you feel like they consider scribes to also be equally important, or are they kind of lower scale?
No.
Okay.
I don't think they're on the same scale as writers.
So maybe like a dime a dozen kind of thing.
I think Markham is. I think certain scribes are considered high ranking. Markham is like the right-hand man of the king.
Yeah.
The reason why I ask is that I just found it a little bit odd that they would allow Lilith to change her over to the writers, and she was supposed to be the top scribe, like his protege. And it's odd to me that somebody that would be that important to them, that they would allow her to change that. And because at that point they thought she was going to die the first day. It just seems like a huge waste.
Technically, they say that it's all voluntary, so it should be Violet's choice.
Yeah.
You have your prospects that you want, kind of like a draft, I guess. But ultimately, it should have been Violet's choice. And honestly, if General Sorrengail wasn't who she was, I don't think they would, if they would have found out that she was forced into the Writers' Quadrant, it would have been an uproar, because you're not supposed to have conscripts into the writers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Except for the marked ones.
Okay.
Except for the marked ones.
Christy, you said that you were shocked that Dane actually admits what his signet is to Violet, which I find so funny since he spends the rest of the book going, it's classified.
I think that may be what it is, because I felt like later on, for some reason, I was thinking Iron Flame, that it was like, oh gosh, we found out this was what it was, and he didn't tell her, and he's been touching her this whole time. So I did not remember that. So I was shocked when that came up, and he straight out tells her what it is. But I think it was more just that I didn't remember that. And I thought from Iron Flame that he hadn't told her.
They discuss a few other signets here as well, like the intrinsic signet is brought up where we find out it's illegal. The mending signet, which is exceptionally rare.
I was thinking about how it's described in the book whenever Violet asks about Brennan as they're talking about Nolan. It says that the signet of mending has the ability to fix, restore, and return anything to its original state. So I was thinking, what is anything? Is it literally anything? Does that mean this could have an impact on Onyx Storm?
They do put a caveat, I believe, in Iron Flame.
Yeah.
Where they say you can't mend magic.
Right.
And Nolan spends most of the book trying to mend a soul, which he doesn't accomplish.
Right.
So I think there are some things that he can't mend.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what I'm trying to point out here, but it still leaves a lot open for how broad that signet is, I think.
Yeah.
There's one other.
I would like a mender, please.
Yeah. And Lily, there was another one that you brought up about Naolin. How did we say? Naolin?
Yeah.
Is that how you say the name?
I think so. Naolin?
It's Naolin.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In the
that his signet was siphoning, and he could absorb power from various sources, other dragons, other riders, and then use it or redistribute it. And that actually could fit within that theory that I had talked about when we were talking about the second signet. Because if he can absorb from other dragons, then a version of that could be passed to Violet, resulting in her being able to utilize the power and signets of other dragons. So I thought that was interesting that Lily, you brought that up.
Oh, you're saying that the fact that Naolin's signet has the ability to redistribute means that there could be a signet that exists for her being able to mimic or take others' signets in some way.
Yeah, because he can take that power and use it or, send it out. But I was like, that actually could still be something, because it sounds like the signet could be somewhat similar, because it's the gift from the dragon, but then it's the writer's core and their power that determines how it manifests, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
And I always thought it was weird that being an intrinsic was so outlawed. Especially since
secrets.
Well, especially since they make this big deal about shielding and how you can shield people out. So they say that being an intrinsic is outlawed because you'd be able to breach classification.
That doesn't mean that there aren't people in leadership that don't have it. Sorry.
That don't have intrinsic or don't have shields?
That don't have intrinsic powers.
They could.
I'm assuming that's what you're saying, right?
Oh, I was saying, I don't understand why it's such a feared signet, because it can be shielded against. So you're not necessarily putting your secrets at risk.
Well, but I think that's what you were saying, Lily, is that you were thinking that somebody in power might be an intrinsic.
I was thinking that it could be outlawed because there are people, it's resource guarding. It's like there are people at the top who have that ability, and they're the only ones who should be able to use it. So they're not teaching people to guard themselves. They're not teaching people to be aware of intrinsics, and they're outlawing intrinsics to keep that within their ranks, is what I would say is probably a good reason for that.
That's a good theory.
That's how governments work, right? They love to keep everything for themselves.
I feel like this book is half self-help book too. All of Violet's little, don't borrow tomorrow's trouble. It's like,
yeah,
it's really helpful. Thank you, Violet.
When we get to the point where they've gotten through Parapet and they're all inducted as cadets, they have to fight each other. And she has to meet the marked ones. And at this point, she still thinks they're her enemies. And
which they kind of are.
They
want her dead.
They are. But we know that they're really not. But she really fucking asks for it. And one thing I forget about Violet is she loves to provoke. And She kind of provokes Imogen into
Beating her ass.
beating the shit out of her. What'd you guys think about that?
I wonder if she regrets that now, considering the relationship she has with Imogen.
Yeah, because what she says is pretty harsh. She says that she's proud of her mother for doing her duty to protect from enemies within and without.
And Dane kind of loses it here and lets everyone know that he's in love with her except for Violet.
Who clearly still doesn't see it for some reason.
Yeah. And begs Nolan not to mend her.
How fucked up do you have to be in the head to be like, this'll keep her from doing what I don't want her to do? Don't heal her.
But not only that, in Iron Flame, she gets injured and she still has to spar against Dane, no less.
Yep.
So it's not like her not being mended would save her from still having to spar.
He's crazy.
Or participate in this. He's very delusional about what Violet can be protected from.
Although drunk medicine Violet is funny.
I love drunk medicine.
It is a good scene when she's like slurring. She's like, mend me.
Mend me.
Don't
I'm
mend
not
me.
going back to the Skybes. I'm not going back to the Sibes.
Sibes. Don't mend me. I mean, mend me.
Wouldn't Markham, if she took Dane up on his offer and moved back to the Scribes, wouldn't Lilith kill Markham or something?
I would doubt that she would kill Markham, seeing as he is probably the right hand of the king. But she could be like Colonel Atos and, try to sneakily get some revenge.
Okay.
All right, that is part 1 of our discussion of Fourth Wing. We hope you join us for the next part. We did have to cut it short because we just had too much fun discussing it. We hope that you'll join us for next week's episode. We'll be discussing Book 1, Fourth Wing, chapters 8 through 21. New episodes drop every week, and don't forget to check out last season's discussion on the Zodiac Academy, available now.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. That like and follow are super important for us to continue to bring in each week, so please, please, please do so. Thank you for listening to the Midnight Readers podcast. We'll see you next week.
Happy reading, listeners. Don't stay up too late.